Hey Randy, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Are you staying out of the Vegas heat?
Nah, I just got back to Vegas last night, so it's definitely hot today. I just came from the gym, got my training in, and it was hot. It's 114 today.
Yeah, I'm in Vegas too. You missed yesterday was the hottest day in the history of Vegas, they said.
No way.
Yes.
This is pretty
118 or
standard.
something. Yeah.
We've seen 118 before this time of year, though. That doesn't
Yeah,
seem
that's
right.
what I thought, but that's what they said.
That
So
sounds like some global warming narrative to me.
yeah, maybe. Cool. So I guess, the playoffs are coming up. We got three really good cards, one in Texas,
Yeah.
two in New York. Is there any specific event or date or fight that's like really exciting to you or location or anything you're really looking forward to on those three cards?
Well, San Antonio is a new destination for us, so I'm excited to go to the fights there and get a little bit of time. Obviously, be working, so I'm not probably not going to make it to the Alamo or any of the interesting things in San Antonio, but I'm excited that we're there and we're doing something new there in San Antonio area. Obviously, it's always fun to be at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. That's a historic venue, from weighing in on that scale that Muhammad Ali actually weighed in on, which my son has done as well, it's a pretty cool place to be, honestly, for fighting. So I don't think there's any one card that sticks out. As we've seen in the regular season, they never cease to amaze me. You never know what's going to happen with this format and how these. I mean, look at what Jesus Pinedo just did. I mean, that was remarkable. Everybody was flabbergasted that it went down that way. But welcome to the fight game. That's just how it is.
Right. And it's crazy because, this season obviously had some hiccups. There's been some, drug testing and pull out, fighters pulling out and whatnot, which happens anywhere. I feel like it's highlighted a little bit more in PFL just because of the way the season format is. There's so many fights right in one little clump. But, these last three cards were, I think, some of the best that I've seen in a long time. Um,
Mhm.
the card that's coming up, I believe, is light heavyweights and featherweights. And I know
By the
the
way,
light heavyweights have been hit the hardest when it came to the drug testing failures, but I feel like there's still some really good names in the division that are left. Is there anybody in that light heavyweight division you think people should really be paying attention to?
well, I think that Impa Kasanganai Martin Hamlet fight is going to be a very, very competitive fight. Impa's giving up a little bit of size. Martin is continuing to refine his wrestling background and figure out how to put it into MMA and be more efficient and more effective. He's a big, strong, raw boned kid. He comes from that very similar Greco-Roman background that I did, and that Dan Henderson and Matt Lennon and Chael Sonnen and so many other very good fighters had come from. So I'm excited for that matchup. Impa's a very, very formidable opponent. He's got a great head on his shoulders and a very interesting story coming out of Africa, living in a yurt in Florida. I mean, pretty incredible what this guy does and how in touch with the world and kind of nature that he is. He's just an interesting cat. Um, yeah, the drug testing thing is a bit odd to me. We're in our fifth season with the PFL, and obviously this is just my opinion. I'm speaking for myself, but of all the other 4 years that we've been doing this in this format, we've not had any issues. And then all of a sudden, we do three shows in Vegas, and then we have some significant issues. And certainly Dana White's comment about being asked about that was captivating for me. He said, "Oh yeah, it's tough to be a promoter. These sorts of things make it difficult. I bet they don't come back to Vegas again." Was how he finished his statement on what happened with the PFL in Las Vegas. So that was very telling to me and very interesting to me, and it just didn't sit well with me. Something stinks there, in my opinion. And again, that's just my opinion, but I think we have historically many tests from the past seasons of these guys, or most of these guys anyway. I think we need to be digging in and exploring what those results were in those tests, compare them to these tests that happen in Vegas, because something just doesn't sit right there with me. But again, that's my opinion. Whether the PFL feels that way or going to dig into some of that historic history that we have from previous tests and previous results. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but that's just what stuck out in my mind.
Yeah, I have to agree. Definitely that was something that when I heard how many and just in that, like you said, it never happened before. It did seem like something was off. Um, yeah, so I agree with you. I can understand why you might be a little like, hey, I want to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's not a completely out of the left field opinion there. I just today, you may not have even heard yet, but Movlead is out of the playoffs. I know he was supposed to be fighting. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
disappointing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
we
I
got
haven't heard that yet. I hadn't heard that
yeah.
yet. Obviously, the cards are subject to change. This format is very, very challenging, both mentally and physically. You just don't know. And Movleed's coming off a year where he was injured and recovering from an injury. He looked a little rusty, honestly, in his first fight, but man, his second fight looked stellar and looked like he was right back on track and right back in the groove that we're used to seeing him on. So I haven't heard what happened or what's going on, but that's a shame because I was excited to see him fight again and potentially, get the strap or get a shot at the strap for the first time.
Of course, like having him out of the season is sad. Nobody wants to see that, but it also opens up a chance for somebody like Chris Wade or Brendan to even come back. And I know that with Bubba there, there's some history with both of those opponents. And so even though maybe he's out, it could be still really fun depending on who they put in there. There's been no announcement who that will be yet, but
Yeah. Well, we've seen some of these substitutes step up, some of these alternates step up, and man, there isn't one of them that's not worthy of being in that spot. May not have worked out their way during the season, and even in the playoffs, but good for them staying in there, staying in shape, making themselves ready and available in case something like this happens, and then they get to step up and fill that void as an alternate. And man, any of those names you just mentioned certainly deserve to be there, have been there in the past many, many times. So, who knows? I don't know who's going to get the nod there. That's a Ray Steffo decision. He's the one that handles and coordinates all of that with the fighters and as the president of fighter relations. So, and he does an amazing job. That is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask about too, you have a unique perspective as a former fighter, working in the gyms, coaching people, and now doing commentary. You have all these different hands in different places. So you have a unique opinion, of what happened with Hausch, and why am I forgetting the name?
Hausch Manfield and
Natan.
Nathan
Natan.
Schultz.
Yeah.
Nathan Schultz. Obviously, Nathan's a two-time champ. Hausch is a one-time champ for us. They're both tremendous athletes and tremendous competitors. Now, the other layer to that onion is they're best friends. Literally, godfather to each other's children, have been in their weddings right on down the line. So a very unique situation and kind of, in my opinion, unfortunate the way it went down and that they end up getting matched up in the playoffs. They didn't fight. It was very apparent that they did not fight each other. They were pity patting it. It didn't even look like sparring, frankly.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that's a shame. It does a disservice certainly to the brand and the format that we put out there and to them as athletes. I think, we're professionals. This is what we do. I've had to fight some of my best friends, and I've certainly had to wrestle some of my best friends for the spot on the team. One of us is going home pissed off. That's just how it is. Doesn't mean we're not going to be friends and all those things after the fight. And so it was an unfortunate situation the way they handled that. And, it was kind of inevitable. It's been talked about in at least two other seasons that I know of that there was a potential that they were going to get matched up and have to fight each other. So it should not have been a surprise that it finally did happen. And, they chose to handle it the way they handled it. And unfortunately, I think the company has to respond. They can't allow that. We've created a meritocracy. It's about going out there, winning fights, scoring points, doing the right thing, and taking care of these fighters along the way. And those two guys are perfect examples of that. So, it's plain and simple. They just didn't fight each other.
Right. And we've got two really big fights that aren't directly PFL related, but we got Francis Ngannou, who's going to be fighting Tyson Fury, and Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. I'm just curious what you think of those fights. Are you excited to watch them? Who do you think is going
to? I'm excited. Certainly it's good for the PFL. We signed, Francis, who's got to be one of the biggest signings in our sport as a free agent. Taking him away as the heavyweight champ from the UFC and signing him to the PFL. And I think the big thing that swung that was making him the chairman of PFL Africa. And you're going to see PFL Africa and PFL Middle East more than likely launch next year. Obviously, PFL Europe is off and running. Just had a show in Berlin that went very, very well. The Newcastle show sold out in a day. So PFL Europe is off and running and doing very, very well. There's some very, very solid talent in that pool of and that region. I expect the same things from these other regions. Francis is very, very smart and very excited about getting it done and building some talent and creating some opportunity for the people that live where he came from. And his journey, again, like Impa, is pretty remarkable, pretty astonishing. Literally in 2012, living out of his car, trying to make his way to Paris, being shot at as he crosses the border from Morocco to try and find a way across the Mediterranean into Europe. And if they'd have caught him, they'd have sent him back, probably put him in jail for a couple of years, and then send him back to Sierra Leone, where he comes from. Is it Sierra Leone? I always say the
It
wrong
sounds
city there.
familiar, but I'm not sure, to
I
be
don't think
honest.
it's Sierra Leone. I think they had a civil war in Sierra Leone. He comes from Cameroon.
Cameroon,
Like
yes.
those two, they
Yeah.
both start with a C, and
Yeah.
Cameroon, get that right.
Yeah.
Francis will take issue with me, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I don't want to get a beef with Francis. I guess my last question for you then, there hasn't been a city announced for the finals yet that I'm aware of. Is there anywhere that you would like to see the PFL fight? Maybe like Paris and somewhere international, or would you like to see New York again?
Um, Man, it's really up for grabs. I haven't heard inklings. I thought maybe it was going to be Saudi Arabia, and we're obviously been in talks with them for a little while now about developing, PFL Middle East and MENA, PFL Middle East and Northern Africa. And Francis has been a big part of that negotiation and that talk. But now with the boxing thing coming on here this fall, with obviously Francis and Jake Paul, I'm not sure that it's going to be in Riyadh, a month later, because that's happening in October, I believe, and the finals are going to be on Black Friday again.
Mhm.
I honestly don't know. I haven't got any inclination as to where they're going to put it, and frankly, it doesn't matter to me. It's going to be exciting wherever we go, and it was really fun last year going to Wales and in Cardiff, and then being in London for our two big playoffs there. Um, it's never bad to be in New York City. Certainly in Madison Square Garden for the final again. It's an iconic place to fight. I never got to fight there. My son got to fight there, and I was proud for him to be able to step on that scale and be part of that whole thing. So, honestly, 6 titles on the line, $6 million up for grab. I don't think it matters where we go. Everybody's going to be paying attention.
I agree. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you in Texas.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing you there. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great day.
Be well.
Bye-bye.